Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session concluding our epic journey through the worlds of the Robin Hood plays of Anthony Munday and Henry Chettle. It has been a roller coaster ride as we go to this final session of Robin Hood Part 2, as we might call it, or perhaps more properly we should call it The Death of Robert, Earl of Huntington, which we sort of did about 2 days ago. Otherwise, we are now moving much more into the lamentable tragedy of chaste Matilda, otherwise known as Maid Marian. We're doing our final session on the play today, going from, as we've got it noted, Act 4, where we left off last time. There are various alarums and excursions going on as King John is doing all sorts of rebellion-crushing stuff as he tries wholeheartedly to get the affections of Matilda. Matilda has run away to become a nun. And that's, broadly speaking, where we left the action. The play has left Robin Hood far behind. All the merry men have disappeared, and we've gone into far darker, far stranger territory as we continue and conclude the text. Reading the text today, we have this wonderful assembled group of people. We've got a lot of text to get through, so I'm going to crack on. Reading Leicester and the Monk today is...
Hello, I'm Sarah Blake. I'm an actor, writer and director living in Germany.
Reading Fitzwater, Queen and Blunt today is...
Hello, I'm Lynn Freitas. I'm a college composition teacher. I live in the northwestern United States.
Reading Abbess, Brand, and we're assuming just one Bruce. I don't know whether it's the old or the young Bruce. It's just down as Bruce. We're going to say definitely being a Bruce is...
Briony, actor in Lincolnshire.
Reading Mowbray and Matilda of the supplementary title is...
Hello, I'm Valentina. I am an Italian actor and voiceover artist in London.
Reading King John today is...
Hello, I'm Francis Cox. I'm an actor living in Amsterdam.
Reading Richmond and Messenger today is...
Hi, I'm Eric and I'm here.
It's a good place to be. Reading Hubert, Servant, and the Epilogue is...
Hi, Alan Scott, based in Suffolk.
And reading Chester and Oxford is...
Rachael, Nicole, actor in New Jersey, didn't go to Oxford, but today I'm the whole college.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading stage directions and generally keeping us moving forward, and occasionally will step in if I've forgotten to hand out a part, which occasionally happens. I got very confused doing the doubling for this one, so it's entirely possible. Anyway, we're midway through what we're calling Act 4, Scene 2. Other labelling systems are available, and we've been in the middle of a skirmish. There's fighting going on between King John and Fitzwater and Richmond and various other factions against the king. So we left off, we just actually read these lines, but we're going to go back 3 lines, so we read them again. There's a fight, says the stage directions, and they drive back the king, who says...
Of high heroic spirits be they all, we will withdraw a little and confer, for they are circled round and cannot scape.
And the king's party withdraws.
Oh, that we three who in the sun's arise were like the 3 triumvirate of Rome, guides of an host, able to vanquish Rome, are now alone, enclosed with enemies.
The glory of the world hath no more stay, but as it comes, it fleets and fades away.
Courage, and let us die. They come again. Is Lord Hubert alone? Hubert, what news?
And enter Hubert indeed.
This day's fierce slaughter, John, our king, laments. And to you 3, great leaders of an host, that now have not a man at all to lead, you worthy captains without companies.
Fitzwater! Richmond! By the blessed sun, Lord Hubert mocks us.
By the moon I do not, and put the blessed to it. 'Tis as good an oath as you have sworn. My heart grieves that so great hearts as yours be should put your fortunes on a sort of slaves that bring base fear within them to the field. But to the matter, since your state is such that without mercy you're sure of death, which I'm sure and well his highness knows you do not fear at all, yet he gives grant, on just conditions, you shall save your lives.
On no condition will I save my life, except Matilda be returned again, unblemished, unabused. And then I yield.
She now is where she never will return.
Never? Oh God, is my Matilda dead?
Dead to the world, dead to this woe she is. She lives at Dunmow, and is vowed a nun.
Do not delude me, Hubert, gentle son.
By all the faith and honour of my kin, by my unstained allegiance to the king, by my own word that hath reproveless been, she is at Dunmow.
How came she there?
When all these fields were walks for rage and fear, this howling like a head of hungry wolves, that scudding as a herd of frightened deer, when dust arising like coal black fog from friend divided friend, joined foe to foe, yet neither those nor these could either know, till here and there through large wide-mouthed wounds, proud life, even in the glory of his heat, losing possession, belched forth streams of blood, whose spouts in falling made 10,000 drops, and with that purple shower hit the dust allayed. At such time met I the trembling maid, seeming a dove from all her fellows parted, seen, known and taken, unseen and unknown, to any other that did know us both. At her entreats, I sent her safely guided to Dunmow Abbey, and the guide returned, assures me she was gladfully received, pitied, and in his sight did take her oath.
Hubert, for this thy honourable deed, I and my house will reverence thy name.
Yet, I beseech you, hide it from the king, at least that I conveyed her to the place.
And enter the king, Mowbray and Chester.
Hubert, I will.
What? Stand they still on terms?
On honourable terms, on terms of right. Our lives without our liberty we scorn.
You shall have life and liberty, I swear.
Then Leicester bows his knee to his liege lord, and humbly begs his highness to beware of wronging innocence, as he hath done.
Like Richmond desires and yields his sword.
I do embrace ye both, and hold myself richer by a whole realm in having you.
Much is my wrong, yet I submit with these, begging free leave to live a private life.
Old brands of malice in thy bosom rest. Thou shalt have leave to leave me, never doubt. Fitzwater, see thou ship thee straight for France, and never set thy foot on English shore, till I repeal thee. Go hence in peace.
Why doth your highness wrong Fitzwater thus?
I write he's wrong, he's weary of the land.
Not of the land, but of a public life.
Content ye, lords, in such quick times as these, we must not keep a drone among our bees.
I am as glad to go as you to send, yet I beseech this favour of your grace, that I may see Matilda ere I part.
Matilda? See Matilda if thou canst, before sunset. Stay not another day.
The abbey walls that shroud my happy child appear within her hapless father's sight. Farewell, my sovereign. Leicester, Richmond, lords, farewell to all. Grief gives no way to words.
Fitzwater, stay. Lords, give us leave a while. Hubert, go you before unto the Abbess, and signify our coming. Let her bring Matilda to her father. Come, old man, be not too froward, but we shall be friends. About this girl our mortal jars began, and if thou wilt, here all our quarrel ends.
Reserve my honour and my daughter's fame, and no poor subject at your grace commands shall willinger submit, obey, and serve.
Do then but this, persuade thy beauteous child to leave the nunnery and return to court, and I protest from henceforth to forswear all such conceits of lust as I have borne.
I will, my lord, do all that I may do, but give me leave in this doubt of you.
This small thing grant, and ask me anything, or else die in exile, loathed of the king.
You shall perceive. I will do what I may.
Enter on the wall the Abbess and Matilda, and re-enter Hubert, who exited earlier.
Matilda is afraid to leave the house. But lo, on yonder battlement she stands, but in no case will come within your hands.
What? Will my lady Abbess war with us? Speak, lady. Wherefore shut you up your gates?
We not reason when an host of men hunt and pursue religious chastity? King John, bethink thee what thou takest in hand on pain of interdiction of thy land. Murderers and felons may have sanctuary, and shall not honourable maids distressed have that small privilege? And shall not honourable maids distressed, religious virgins, holy nuns professed, have that small privilege? Now, out upon thee, out! Holy Saint Catherine, shield my virginity. I never stood in such extremity.
My lord, the abbess lies, I warrant you. For I have heard there is a monk of Bury that once a week comes thither to make merry.
Content thee, Hubert, that same monk and she, and the worst come, my instrument shall be. Good lady Abbess, fear no violence. There's not one here shall offer you offence.
Daughter, all this while my tears have stayed, my speech have stayed. My lord the king, lords, all draw near, I pray, and hear a poor man's parting from his child. Matilda, still my unstained honor's joy, fair ornament of old Fitzwater's coat. Born to rich fortunes, did not this ill age bereave thee of thy birthright heritage? Thou seest our sovereign, lord of both our lives, a long besieger of thy chastity, hath scattered all our forces, slain our friends, razed our castles, left us ne'er a house wherein to hide us from his wrathful eye. Yet God provides. France is appointed me, and if thou find'st house room in this nunnery, here, if the king should dote as he hath done, it's sacrilege to tempt the holy nun. But I have hope he will not, yet my fear so drowns my hope as I am forced to stay and leave abruptly what more I would say.
Oh, go not yet, my grieved heart's comforter. I am as valiant to resist desire as ever thou wert worthy in the field. John may attempt, but if Matilda yield, oh then...
Aye, then, Matilda, thou dost lose the former glory of thy chaste resolves. This 7 years hast thou bid a martyr's pains, resisting in thyself lust-growing fire, for being mortal, sure thou hast desire. And 5 sad winters have their full course run, since thou didst bury noble Huntington. In these years many months and many days have been consumed, thy virtues to consume. Gifts have been heralds, panders did presume to tempt thy chaste ears with their unchaste tongues. All in effect working no effect, for I was still the watchman of thy tower, the keeper of foul worms from my fair flower. But now, no more Fitzwater may defend his poor lamb from the lion's prey. Thy order and thy holy prayers may. To help thee thou hast privilege by law, therefore be resolute and nobly die. The whore-base lust, defend thy chastity.
Dispatched, Fitzwater, hinder not thy child. Many preferments do on her await.
Aye, girl, I know thou shalt be offered wealth, which is a shrewd enticement in sad want, great honors to lift up thy low estate, and glorious titles to eternize thee. All these do but gild over ugly shame. Such wealth, my child, foreruns releaseless need. Such honor ever proves dishonor it. For titles, none comes near a virtuous name. Oh, keep it ever as thou hast done yet. And though these dark times should forget thy praise, an age will come that shall eternize it. Bid me farewell, and speak it in a word.
Farewell, dear father.
Oh, farewell, sweet child. My liege, farewell. Leicester, Richmond, Hubert, Chester and Mowbray, friends and foes, farewell. Matilda, see thou keep thy spotless fame, and live eternized, else die soon with shame.
And exit Fitzwater.
Amen. Amen. Father, adieu. Adieu. Grief dwells with me, sweet comfort follow you.
Come, daughter, come. This is a woeful sight, when good endeavours are oppressed by might.
Exeunt from above, Abbess and Matilda.
Ah, Hubert, seest thou not the sun go down, cloudy and dark? Matilda, stay. One word. She shakes her head and scornfully says nay.
How cheerest thou, Leicester?
Mad man at my state, that cannot raise true honour, ruinate.
And enter a messenger.
I will not be disdained. I vow to see quick vengeance on this girl for scorning me.
Young Bruce, my lord, hath gotten at Windsor Castle, slain Blunt your constable and those that kept it, and finding in a tower his mother dead with his young brother starved and famished, that everyone may see the rueful sight. In the thick wall he a wide window makes, and as he found them, so he lets them be, a spectacle to every comer by, that heaven and earth your tyrant shame may see. All people cursing, crying, fie upon the tyrant, merciless, inhuman John.
Chester and Mowbray, march away to Windsor. Suppress that traitor Bruce. What, if his dam in wilful fury would receive no meat, nor suffer her young child any to eat? Is it our fault? Haste ye with speed, be away, and we will follow. Go, be gone, I pray.
And exeunt Chester and Mowbray.
Oh, black and woeful deed, oh piteous thing, when slaves attend the fierce thoughts of a king.
My lord, shall we go too?
Leicester and Richmond, I pray ye, do.
Get I my bare and ragged staff once more raised in the field. For these wrongs some shall roar.
Exeunt Richmond and Leicester.
Fetch in the monk of Bury that I talked of.
Exeunt Hubert for the monk.
And bid Will Brand, my instrument of death, come likewise in, convert to raging hate.
Enter monk Hubert and Brand.
My long resisted love, welcome, good monk.
Thanks to my liege.
Thou hast been long in suit to be installed abbot of your house, and in your favour many friends have stirred. Now is the hour that you shall be preferred, upon condition, and the matter small. Short shrift to make, good honest confessor. I love a fair nun, now in Dunmow Abbey. The abbess loves you, and you pleasure her. Now, if between you and this pretty lady could be persuaded to affect a king, your suit is granted, and on Dunmow Abbey I will bestow 100 marks a year.
A holy nun, a young nun, and a lady? Dear where, my lord? Yet, bid you well as may be, strike hands, a bargain. She shall be your own, or if she will not.
Nay, if she do refuse, I'll send a death's man with you. This is he. If she be wilful, leave her to his hands, and on her own head be her hasted end.
The matter shall be done.
Sirrah, what poisons have you ready?
Store.
Wait on the monk then, and ere we take horse, I'll give you such instructions as you need. Hubert, repair to Windsor with our host.
Exeunt King, Monk and Brand.
Your tyrannies have lost my love almost, and yet I cannot choose but love eternally this wanton king, replete with cruelty. Oh, how are all these princely virtues stained with lust abhorred and lascivious heat, which kindling first the fire, now in the flame, shows the whole world clearly his foul shame. To quench this flame full, many a tide of tears, like overflowing full seas, have been spent, and many a dry land drunk with human blood. Yet nothing helps his passions violent. Rather they add oil to his raging fire, heat to his heat, desire to his desire. Somewhat, I fear, is now a manship. For that prodigious bloody stigmatic is never called unto his kingly sight, but like a comet he portendeth still some innovation or some monstrous act, cruel, unkindly, horrid, full of hate, as that vile deed at Windsor done of late. Gentle Matilda, somewhat I must trust, yet thee I need not fear, such is his love. Again, the place doth give thee warrant eyes. Yet I remember when his highness said, the lustful monk of Bury should him aid. Aye, so it is, if she have any ill, through the lewd shaveling will her shame be wrought. If it be so chance, Matilda's guiltless wrong will with the loss of many a life be bought. But Hubert will still be his dread lord's friend. However he deserves his master serve. Though he neglect, him will I not neglect. Whosoever fails him, I will John affect. For though the king's fault in many foul offence, subjects pursue, not mend with violence.
And exit Hubert, and that is the end of that incredibly long scene, but scenes with overlapping action as the focus goes from one area to another. We've got one line which I'm wondering if is a stage direction or not. When the king says, she shakes her head and scornfully says nay. I'm assuming that that's just a cocked up stage direction. I apologise for that. I will check that. It might not be. It's impossible that he just says that. We have confirmation that Bruce's wife and child are dead. And not only that, he's taken the wall down so everyone can look in. One of the more grisly tourist attractions available there. But that's stirring up a new rebellion. And what is it about King John, John's narrative, and poisonous monks? Because that's how he's supposed to die. So I'm interested here that this element from John's own life or alleged life, he's supposed to be poisoned by a monk, is being appended to Matilda here. So yeah, all sorts of interesting stuff going on. Fitzwater, stuff that's also similar to other history plays. I think we mentioned this before of the thing between Fitzwater and his daughter there. There's all sorts of echoes and future echoes going on here. Thoughts from the room, Alan?
I think actually the poisoning by monks thing probably relates to the fact that the most adept herbalists were probably the monks. I'm thinking of Cadfael, for example, in that novel sequence. That was where the repository of the information about the properties of herbs was maintained.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking in the sense that we have a generally understood narrative of John being killed by a monk, poisoned by a monk, and it's probably more to do with anti-Catholic propaganda than anything else. You can't trust monks is the Protestant position. Rachael.
Just this sequence that Fitzwater brings him to the Abbey when she was brought there to be hidden. I don't understand that.
Well, they're surrounded. Even though the king, they drive back the king does say, they are circled round and cannot escape. We've got them where we want them. And there's also a sort of sense nobody's quite sure who's winning. So it's this thing of going in, and they send Hubert in to negotiate. You can leave alive so long as you give us her, and then Fitzwater sort of plays it for what it's worth. So presumably some of their people get away by this process, and John still doesn't get what he wants. So it might be that sort of logic. I might be overthinking the strategy here. Feel free to contradict me. I'll go to Lynn, then I'll go to Alan.
I think you could also rationalize it, at least internally for the character, that he just can't bring himself to leave the country without seeing his presumably only child for the last time.
Yeah. Alan.
My logic is that the battle sequence must be very, very close to Dunmow, which goes slightly against the concept I think we had in the previous sequence when Hubert aided her escape, which I read at the time as being, yes, she's going to be removed some distance from the centre of action, but the only way logically that what has just happened there with them all turning up at the gates of the Abbey is that it was hard by.
Yeah, but there might be some weird chop logic going on with, where the bit earlier was, because even though nobody's exited doesn't mean that, the action, we're walking and talking, we're somewhere slightly different. But yeah, it's a little awkward of, let us go to the Abbey. Oh, here we are. Kind of element to it. Hubert's part here is really interesting.
I think John must have some very good photos of him in compromising positions.
No, I don't know. I think this is to do with the nature of loyalty. I know my king is... It's like the page in The True Tragedy of Richard III, who, remains loyal and does love his king, even though he knows his king is a bastard. And Hubert is entirely not understands this, and but he still loves his king. And yeah, it's a really interesting... It seems a decision. It's not a contradiction. Sarah.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm not seeing that parallel with the True Tragedy of Richard III, because I felt the messenger there was actually. I felt that he was actually quite enjoying it. Like he knew the king was evil, but he was actually kind of, he was kind of fine with that. Whereas with Hubert, I feel he really isn't fine with it. And yet, like you say, it's about loyalty to the position, to the crown, rather than to the man. And so there's a really beautiful kind of contradiction there, and I thought that was a great speech.
Yeah, I'm warming to Hubert's flaws. Let's call it flaws. Yeah, as a human being. Briony. Was your
It's not much of a point, but I just wanted to say I'm really over this mythical, magical virginity narrative. Like, honest to God, it really, I know it's horrible, and I don't think she should have to do anything with him, but as if her virginity is this wonderful thing and nothing's going to be the same once it's gone, and just
yeah, I kind of have to second that. That you could play this as a critique of patriarchy, the fact that they're trafficking in her sexuality, but who told you that your virginity was so valuable in the first place? But if it's not the patriarchy, so I mean, it is really sort of lose-lose for her.
Rachael.
Yeah, I'm just saying I third that. And also that one line where it's like, she's fought off his advances for like 7 years, and like saying that none of that means anything if she does something now, and like, yeah, I don't know how it all falls the blame onto her again is not a modern concept, or it is a modern concept, but it's from then too, but now nobody wants to hear anything like that.
Yeah, and the whole play is I think after Robin dies, is an opportunity to develop those themes and interrogate them. I think there is a possibility of using this play for that kind of analysis, because it's from the beginning, and just the single-minded never-endingness of John in this play. I mean, it has continued from the Robin Hood play, but there at least it was doing a different thing, and there was other stuff going on. But here it's like it's just taken to the nth degree, and it just won't relent. Alan.
The other one, a completely different topic, is the messenger. It's a very unusual speech for a messenger to present, because he's almost editorializing. And one would have thought that his life expectancy would be measured in nanoseconds, giving that sort of message to the king. If it had been one of the nobles, it would have been more understandable, I think.
Yeah, messengers always have that problem. But I think the playwright can't resist the sort of lurid sensationalist detail there of, you know, they've taken the wall down, people are queuing, there's a gift shop to go past, this scene of horror that was set up so effectively at the scene before this long scene, you know, that we knew this was coming. You know, if this was a film, we'd be seeing they'd cut 2 images as they describe it. Eric.
I was going to say it reminded me of the messenger from last night, Nuncius or something, who appeared to talk to Herod and just went, "Hey!" Like sort of bring the worst news possible, and then just sort of not getting the hint that this was a very, very bad idea.
Yeah, that was from the Orc cycle. The Nuncius basically comes in and says, you know, are the 3 kings coming back? And the messenger just says the wonderful line, "No, that dance is done." Just going, yeah. That messenger had to run really fast after that scene. Anyway, totally different play. We will go forward now into the next scene. We've got a short scene. I think we'll run it into the next scene, possibly, I don't know, I'll see, but we'll do Act 4, Scene 3, as we have it here. Enter Oxford and Queen.
Now, by my faith, you are to blame, madame, ever tormenting, ever vexing you. Cease of these fretting humours, pray ye do. Grief will not mend it, naught can pleasure you, but patient suffering, nor by your grace's leave have you such cause to make such hue and cry after a husband you have not in good sooth. Yearly a child, this payment is not bad. Content, fair queen, and do not think it strange that kings do sometimes seek delight in change. For now and then, I tell you, poor men range. Sit down a little, I will make you smile. Though I be now like to the snowy Alps, I was as hot as Etna in my youth. All fire, if faith, true heart of oak, right steel, a ruffian lady. Often for my sport, I to a lodge of mine did make resort, to view my dear. I said, dear God can tell, it was my keeper's wife, whom I loved well. My countess, God be with her, was a shroud, as women be, your majesty doth know, and some odd pick-thank put it in her head, all was not well, but such a life I led, and the poor keeper and his smooth-faced wife, that will I, nil I, there she might not bide, but for the people I did well provide. And by God's mother, for my lady's spite, I tricked her in her kind, I served her right, were she at London, I the country kept. Come thither, I at London would sojourn, came she to court, from court I straightway stepped. Return, I to the court would back return, so this way, that way, every way she went. I still was retrograde, sailed opposite, till at the last, by mildness and submission, we met, kissed, joined, and here left all suspicion.
Now out upon you, Vere. I would have thought the world had not contained a chaster man.
Oxford is somewhat distracted with some cat business there. Are the cats okay?
They're separated.
Okay.
Now, by my fay, I will be sworn I am. In all I tell you, I confess no ill, but that I curbed a froward woman's will. Yet had my keeper's wife been out of my mind, there had been cause some fault with us to find. But I protest her no's and nays were such that for my life she never kept go much.
You would take nay, but our King John says no. No nay, no answer will suffice his turn. He, for he cannot tempt true chastity, fills all the land with hostile cruelty. It is not shame. He that should punish sin, defend the righteous, help the innocent, carves with his sword the purpose of his will upon the garters of the virtuous, and hunts admired spotless maidenhead with all the darts of desolation, because she scorneth to be dissolute. Me that he leaves, I do not murmur at. That he loves her doth no whit me perplex. If she did love him, or myself did hate, but this alone it is that doth me vex. He leaves me that loves him, and her pursues that loathes him, and loves me. How can I choose but sadly grieve and mourn that in my green youth, when nor of her nor me he taketh ruth?
Ha done, good queen. For God's good love, ha done. This raging humor will no doubt be stayed. Virtuous Matilda is professed a nun. Within a mile at Dunmow lives the maid. God will not suffer anything so vile. He will not, sure, that he should her defile.
No church, no chapel, abbey, nunnery are privileged from his intemperance. But leave we him, and let us, I entreat, go visit fair Matilda. Much I am in debt unto that maid.
You are indeed. You wronged her when with blows you made her bleed. But if you please to visit her, fair dame, our coach is ready. We will soon be there.
Thanks, Oxford. And with us I mean to bear the beauteous garland sent me out of Spain, which I will offer in the abbey chapel as witness of Matilda's chastity, whom, while I live, I ever vow to love in recompense of rash and careless wrong.
And yeah, we will pause there because this is an interesting little exchange going on here between Oxford, who we've never met before, and the Queen, who we have. Or at least we haven't necessarily met Oxford here before. Discuss. Thoughts from the room? Anyone getting a handle on Oxford here? And anyone out there who may have put in chat just any comments about Oxford, wishing to just say anything there? I'm not looking at anyone in particular, Sarah. And any thoughts from the room on Oxford? I'll go to Sarah. Sarah's very enthusiastic there.
What I put in the chat was, Oxford's a charmer, isn't he? And yes, I was being ironic. Yeah, it's a really interesting introduction for a character, though, because I don't think we have met him before, have we? And here he is, telling the Queen what's what. I'm like, right, way to go. And I'm thinking, what is the dramatic purpose of this? Is this to try and distract us all from John and John's general shittiness? We've just got someone else come in now who's, kind of obviously not as bad, but kind of you feel if he was the king, he sort of would be. Yeah, I don't like him. You can probably tell.
Not a
fan. I think the Queen's reaction to him though is quite interesting.
Yeah, it does give the Queen something to bounce off, and I think in that sense he functions very well within the logic of the play, because she's just going, no, John's, she's going to become a nun. That's not going to stop John. Yeah. Have you met John? That's not going to work. Of which I think we were all saying yesterday, actually. The plans, it's not a good plan. It's not going to work. Rachael, then Alan.
No, he just mansplains cheating at her. I don't know. This is like, I don't know. This is just one of those things where it's like that virtuous and godly Susanna, where there was just it was just so like patriarchal and condescending to women that it's just like the next level. Even for sometimes these texts that are so old that they go above and beyond even what other texts from the time seem to do.
Alan, then Lynn.
Yeah, I must admit, I think Oxford is really there just to provide the feed lines to save the Queen actually doing it as a soliloquy.
I would agree if Oxford wasn't just saying quite so much. I mean, it's a massive feed. If it was a one-liner, I'll go to Sarah very briefly if you've got anything to add there before I go to Lynn.
No, you just said exactly what I was going to say. It's like, really? That's the hell of a feed line. Right?
There's interesting questions about what Oxford is doing structurally, but which we come once we've completed the play.
Yeah, I just want to throw in with Rachael and Sarah that the whole boys will be boys thing. Yeah, that really doesn't land with me.
Briony. We do need to move on, so I'll go to Briony and Rachael.
I just think it's a really nice reminder for us women that everything is our fault, and we need to work on it. Obviously, if we weren't working on it, we wouldn't need that reminder. So, yeah.
Rachael.
No, I meant to say patient Grizel, not virtuous and godly Susanna.
Yes, they are indeed very different texts. They are doing different work. One we rather enjoyed, and the other we didn't. In fact, Patient Grizel, we basically wrote constantly in the chat, kill him, make him die. Towards the end, her husband was total shit. Anyway, that's basic précis of Patient Grizel there. The first iteration in play terms, we haven't yet got to the second iteration. That's something to look forward to in the future, because I'm sure it will be even better the later version. Anyway, Act 5. Let's go on. Act 5, Scene 1, as we have it here. Enter Brand Solus. We're always expectant of something cheerful to happen when we have the entrance of Brand with cup and bottle of poison.
Good by this hand, exceeding passing good. The dog no sooner drank it, but yuh, yuh, quoth he. So grins me with his teeth, lies down and dies. Yuh, quoth I, by God's blood go thy ways. Of all thy line and generation was never dog so worshipped as thou art. For ere thou diedest, thou wert an officer. I lie not by these nails a squire's place, for the vile cur became a countess's taster, so died the dog. Now in our next account the countess comes. Let's see, a countess and a nun. Why so, why so? What, would she have the whole world quite undone? We'll meet her for that trick. What, not a king? Hanging's too good for her. I am but a plain knave, and yet should any of these no forsooths, these prayaways, these trip and goes, these tits, deny me now by these, a plague upon this bottle and this cup, I cannot act mine oath, but to it again, by these 10 ends of flesh and blood I swear, first with this hand wound thus about her hair, and with this dagger lustily lambeaked, I would, if faith, I, by my villainy, I would. But here she comes, led by 2 doctors in sweet lechery. If they speed, with my poison I go by. If not, have at you, maid, then step in I.
Enter Matilda between the monk and the abbess.
And, as I said, fair maid, you have done well in your distress to seek this holy place. But tell me truly, how do you expel the rage of lustre-rising heat in you?
By prayer, by fasting, by considering the shame of ill and meed of doing well.
But daughter, tell me in my ear, have you no fleshly fightings now and then?
They whisper.
Fleshly, quoth you, a maid of 60 years, and fleshly fighting sticking in her teeth? Well, wench, thou art matched, i' faith. You do confess the king has tempted you, and thinking now and then on gifts and state.
I think I do need to step in, as I have got a far too large a clashing going on here. I apologise. Trying very well to be both. I do think we should pause here anyway, because my jaw just hit the floor. Tell me truly, how do you expel the rage of lustre-rising heat in you? I mean, that's a conversation one should always ask.
It's quite a big segue as well.
Yeah. Ye gods and little fishes. Right. And also following on dog murder. I mean, I don't think Scooter is going to approve of what's this poison testing that's gone on here at all at the beginning of this scene. Brand, we've proved what an utter horrible person that is. Jeez. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to pause at that point. Briony, who would you like to remain? Do you want to remain as the Abbess or as Brand?
I'll remain as Brand. I like an evildoer.
I thought that might be the case. Who's free? I'm just having a quick look around. I think, Rachael, you're probably free. You can step in, unless something goes horribly, horribly wrong. We'll go back from the whispering, so we'll let Brand do fleshly, quoth you, from there.
Fleshly, quoth you, a maid of 80 years, and fleshly fighting sticking in her teeth? Well, wench, thou art matched, i' faith.
You do confess the king has tempted you, and thinking now and then on gifts in state, a glowing heat hath proudly puffed you up. But, thanks to God, his grace hath done you good.
Ooh, the king's grace. Should that be a Matilda line? No, I don't know that makes sense to me, saying that as the monk. Sorry, I'll say it again. Ooh, the king's grace?
No, God's grace, holy monk.
The king's grace would fain do you good, fair maid.
Ill good? It means my fame to violate.
Well, let that be.
Good board, good mother be, how fain you would that good deed should be.
I was about to say somewhat upon a thing. Oh, thus it is. We maids that all the day are occupied in labor and chaste hallowed exercise are nothing so much tempted while day lasts as we are tried and proved in the night. Tell me, Matilda, had you since you came no dreams, no visions, nothing worth the note?
No, I thank God.
Truly you will, except you take good heed and bless yourself. For if I lie but on my back a while, I am past recovery, sure of a bad dream. You see yon reverend monk, now, God he knows, I love him dearer for his holiness, and I believe the devil knows it too, for the foul fiend comes to me many a night, as like the monk, as if he were the man. Many 100 nights the nuns have seen, pray, cry, make crosses, do they what they can. Once gotten in, then do I fall to work. My holy water bucket being near hand, I whisper secret spells and conjure him, that the foul fiend hath no more power to stand. He down, as I can quickly get him laid. I bless myself, and like a holy maid, turn on my right side where I sleep all night, without more dreams or troubling of the sprite.
An abbess, by the cross of my good blade, an excellent mother to bring up a maid. For me, I mean, and my good master John, but never any for an honest man. Now fie upon that word of honesty. Passing my throat it had almost choked me. Sblurred, I'll forswear it for this trick.
We trifle time. Fair maid, it's thus in brief. This abbey, by your means, may have relief 100 marks a year. Answer, I pray, what will you do herein?
Even all I may.
It's charitably spoken, my fair child. A little thing of yours, a little help, will serve the turn. Learn but to bear the burden of this world, and it will do.
Well, go thy ways. This is no board, think you?
Madam, the heavy burden of the world hath long oppressed me.
But not pressed you right. No, now shall you bear a burden far more light.
What burden bearing? Whereto tends this talk?
To you, to us, this abbey, and King John.
Oh God, for Fendi should be thought upon.
Lady, make short. The king must lie with you.
With me? With me?
First turns to the monk, and then to the abbess.
Sweet, never look so strange. He shall come closely, nobody shall see.
How can he come? But one hath eyes to see.
Your chamber windows shall be shadowed.
But no veil from my conscience shadows me.
And all the nuns sent quietly to bed.
But they will rise, and by my blushing red quickly give guess of my lost maidenhead.
She goes, i'faith. By God, she is their own.
Be not so nice. The sin is venial, considering you yield for charity. And by your fall, the nunnery shall rise.
Regard good counsel, daughter, pray be wise.
Come, here's a stir. Wilt do, wench? Will it do?
Say I, forget the sound of no, or else say no and take it, wilt thou so?
Do ye intend thus lewdly as you speak?
Aye, by Gog's blood do they. And, Moppet, you were best to take their proffers, lest if they forsake you, I play the devil's part, step in and take you.
Some holy water, help me, blessed nuns. 2 damned spirits in religious weeds attempt to tempt my spotless chastity, and a 3rd devil, gaping for my soul, with horrid steadings ghastly, frighteth me.
You may, call while you will, but maid, list what we say, or be assured this is your dying day.
In his name that did suffer for my sin, and by this blessed sign, I conjure you.
And she draws a crucifix.
Depart, foul fiends, and cease to trouble me.
Zoons, she thinks us devils. Here, you conjurer, except you use that trick to conjure down the standing spirit of my lord the king, that your good mother there, the abbess, uses to conjure down the spirit of the monk. Not all your crosses have the power to bless your body from a sharp and speedy death.
Are ye not fiends, but mortal bodies then?
Feels them all.
Mage, catch lower when you feel young men. Splurred I was never taken for the devil till now.
Oh, where shall chastity have true defence, when churchmen lay this siege to innocence? Where shall a maid have certain sanctuary, when Lady Lust rules all the nunnery? Now fie upon ye both, false-seeming saints, incarnate devils, devilish hypocrites? That one. A cowled monk and aged veiled nun become false panders, and with lustful speech essay the chaste ears of true maidenhead. Now fie upon this age, would I were dead.
Leave her, lady. She shall have her wish.
Beat her, I pray thee. Should the baggage live, she'll slander all the chaste nuns in the land.
And exuent monk Abbess, we are midway through what is turning to be quite a scene. Wow. Yeah. I knew the monk was a wrong one, but I wasn't getting quite those vibes from the abbess earlier. Briony.
I feel like it was actually worth sitting through all of the magical virginity stuff to get to the randy clergy people stuff.
Yeah,
this is just a bit mental.
It's the abbess just going, have you had any naughty dreams? I have a naughty dream about the monk over there. Do you like being naughty? And it's just...
She has so many, she has to keep a bucket of holy water by her bed.
It's a brilliant scene. I just love the abbess just saying, say I, forget the sound of no. It's just... and plus you've got Brand doing this sort of constant siding at the side as well, like this, and then we turn to Hammer Horror, and it's it's like they're vampires, and wow, Eric, and then Alan.
I was gonna say it seems like a mix of her going sort of stay away from me, but also sort of like that scene from Monty Python's Hall of the Grail where Galahad gets stuck in the castle of pleasure, but I can't remember what the castle is called. But yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like, are you mortal? Are you real things? And touches them, and it's Brand just goes, no, lower down, and it's just it's just Alan.
I must admit, I was visualising the Carry On team doing that sequence. With the three villains. You could see that could be played as very broad comedy.
It could if the stakes weren't so high. That's the thing, is in the context of where we are in the play, these strokes being played now.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to remember which of the other history plays it was we did not too long ago that ended up with a nun in a box.
That's Edward. No, it was that was the other King John.
Yeah, True Tragedy.
Tragedy.
Oh, right.
So again, there's an awful lot of parallels between this and other King John texts. It does seem like a conversation. Sarah.
Yeah, I feel exactly the opposite to Alan, actually. There are some really funny moments in it. I mean, that you know, absolutely there are. But I just feel overall this is really disturbing, this scene. I mean, it's beautifully written. It's fantastic drama, but oh my God, like playing that monk, I sort of felt like I needed to go off and I don't know, have a shower or something
There's a bucket of water
afterwards.
by the abbess's
Well,
bed.
that's true, but it's like it's so icky, and mesmerizing and disturbing and brilliantly compelling. But I think if you played it for comedy,
Oh, no.
there is loads of really dark humor in it. But I think if you played it for comedy, you would miss out on all the other stuff.
Well, when I mentioned Hammer Horror, I did it with some intent. This is a horror film, scenario. You've gone somewhere safe. You've gone to the place that's safe. It's the end of the film. I'm safe here. And then, no, the monster comes out of the cupboard and you're actually still in the nightmare. Rachael, then Briony, then Francis.
No, just the Abbess in this. She's there because they're trying to because Matilda's a younger woman, that they're trying to use not like feminism, but just another woman figure there to make her comfortable and to abuse that sort of that relationship there, that platonic relationship between an older woman and a younger woman of respect. And then also, I think whether you played this seriously or for comedy, I think just the nature of what they're saying either way would shock an audience, that nobody could take it unseriously. As long as Matilda was still frightened by what they're saying. If the rest of them were lighthearted with it, it would be fine, until you get to the part where the abbess and the monk start to take off their mask and stop being as friendly with her, because they're like, do it, we're what do you call it, they're trying to prostitute her in a nunnery.
Yeah, and it's just that slow creep towards it as well. I mean, and it's so unexpected. I mean, it's just I was genuinely reacting with this horror because the play has not been leading us to this kind of scene. It's been leading us to this situation, but it hasn't led us to this scene, or it hasn't signposted it in quite that way. And it really just leapt out at me. Briony, then Francis, then Sarah, and then we will move on.
There's one line in particular that Brand had where it says aside in the middle of the line, and I think all of it's an aside.
Yeah, I think it's just misplaced.
90% of what he says are asides, and I think in terms of the humour, the only way, if you were going to play it for any comedy, then you would be making the audience hate themselves for laughing, and I kind of quite like the appeal of that, actually.
Where do you put the line, Francis?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't surprised, a bit like you, Rob, I wasn't surprised by the scene because I saw it coming, because it was foreshadowed when, I can't remember who said it now, but somebody said earlier, the monkey's having a bit of hanky-panky with the abbess. But the scene, and I did think at the time, well, just how safe is Matilda's virginity in this environment? But the scene just went a lot farther than I was expecting it to.
Sarah?
Yeah, just picking up on what you were saying and what Francis just said as well about the scene going further than he expected it to, and you were saying that there hasn't really been any foreshadowing of this in terms of where it went. I mean, I suppose we kind of had a little bit with Doncaster, because he's a different character, but Brand has that kind of gleeful, psychotic quality to him that we had from Doncaster early on, and the fact that Brand is, it's like he's performing some sort of commentary. It's almost like sport commentary, on this scene where you've got this, young victim who's being, assailed and baited by these horrible older people, and he is just kind of providing this gleeful commentary on it. And that reminded me slightly of Doncaster with his once the jig was up and he was like talking about, all the terrible things that he'd done, and he was doing it with such glee. So there is this kind of dark anarchy, this streak of dark anarchy in the play, which we have seen before, but it really just does come to its ultimate kind of conclusion here, really.
Okay, we need to finish the scene because we're still mid-scene, because Matilda is still on stage, and just because the monk and the abbess have gone, she's been left with Brand, so I see this going well. Exit monk and abbess.
Well, go. Get you two unto your conjuring. Let me alone to lay her on God's ground.
Why dost thou stay?
Why, maid, because I must. I have a message to you from the king.
And thou art welcome to this humble maid. I thought thee to be grim and fierce at first, but now thou hast a sweet aspect, mild looks. Art thou not come to kill me from the king?
Yes.
And thou art welcome, even the welcomest man that ever came unto a woeful maid. Be brief, good fellow, I have in the world no goods to give, no will at all to make. But God's will and the king's on me be done. A little money kept to give in alms I have about me. Deathsman, take it all. Thou art the last poor almsman I shall see. Come, despatch. What weapon will death wear when he assails me? Is it knife or sword, a strangling cord, or sudden flaming fire?
Neither, thou manly maid. Look here, a cup of poison. Wherefore dost thou smile?
Oh God, in this the king is merciful. My dear loved Huntington by poison died. Good fellow, tell the king I thank his grace, and do forgive his causeless cruelty. I do forgive thee too, but do advise thou leave this bloody course, and seek to save thy soul immortal, closed in thy breast.
And he gives the poison to her.
Be brief, I pray you. Now, to King John's health, a full carouse, and God, remember not the curse he gave himself at Robin's death, wishing by poison he might end his life. If ever he solicited my love, farewell, good fellow. Now thy medicine works, and with the labour I am forced to rest.
Zoons, she cares not. She makes death a jest.
The guiltless fear not death. Farewell, good friend. I pray thee, be no trouble in my end.
And he stands, staring and quaking. Enter Oxford, Queen, Abbess, and attendants.
And you say, Lady Abbess, that there came one from the king unto her. What was he?
It looks like we're passing the Abbess around quite a lot here, aren't we? Sarah, you're free at the moment. You can be the Abbess now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. Yonder he stands. I know not what he is.
Still he stands, staring.
Jesus have mercy. Oxford, come not nigh him.
Not nigh him, madame. Yes, keep you away.
Come in, good queen. I do not mean to stay.
And exit the Abbess.
Nor I to stir before I see the end.
Why starest thou thus? Speak, fellow, answer me. Who art thou?
A bloody villain and a murderer. 100 have I slain with mine own hands. 'Twas I that starved the Lady Bruce to death, and her young son at Windsor Castle late. 'Tis I have slain Matilda, blessed maid, and now will hurry to damnation's mouth, forced by the gnawing worm of conscience.
And he runs in.
Hold him for God's sake. Stay the desperate wretch.
Oh, some good pitying man compassionate, that wretched man, so woeful desperate, save him for God's sake. He hath set me free from much world's woe, much wrong, much misery.
I hear thy tongue, true perfect charity. Chaste maid, fair maid, look up and speak to me.
Who's here? My gracious sovereign Isabel? I will take strength and kneel.
Matilda, sit. I'll kneel to thee. Forgive me, gentle girl, my most ungentle wrongs.
Fair, beauteous queen, I give God thanks I do not think on wrongs.
How now, Fitzwater's child? How dost thou grow?
Well, my good lord of Oxford, pretty well. A little travel more, and I shall rest. For I am almost at my journey's end. Oh, that my head were raised a little up, my drowsy head, whose dim decaying lights assure me it is almost time to sleep.
And they raise her head.
I thank your highness. I have now some ease. Be witness, I beseech your majesty, that I forgive the king with all my heart, with all the little of my living heart that gives me leave to say I can forgive. And I beseech high heaven he long may live a happy king, a king beloved and feared. Oxford, for God's sake, to my father write the latest commendations of his child, and say Matilda kept his honour's charge, dying a spotless maiden undefiled. Bid him be glad, for I am gone to joy, I that did turn his weal to bitter woe. The king and he will quickly now grow friends, and by their friendship much content will grow. Sing, earth to earth, fade, flower ordained to fade. But pass forth, soul, unto the shrine of peace, beg their atonement may be quickly made. Fair queen, kind Oxford, all good you attend, fly forth, lay, soul, heaven's king be there thy friend.
And she dies.
Oh, pity-moving sight, age pitiless. Are these the messages King John doth send? Keep in my tears for shame, your conduits keep. Sad woe, beholding eyes, no, will ye not? Why then, God's name, weep.
And sit.
I cannot weep for Ruth. Here, take in the blessed body of this noble maid. In milk-white clothing let the same be laid upon an open bier, that all may see King John's untimely lust and cruelty.
And exeunt people with the body.
Aye, be it so. Yourself, if you so please. Will I attend upon and both us wait on chaste Matilda's body, which with speed to Windsor Castle we will hence convey. There is another spectacle of Ruth, old Bruce's famished lady and her son.
There is the king besieging of young Bruce. His lords are there, who, when they see this sight, I know will have small heart for John to fight.
But where's the murderer, ha? Is not he stayed?
Born with a violent rage, he climbed a tree, and none of us could hinder his intent. But getting to the top boughs, fast he tied his garters to his neck and a weak branch, which being unable to sustain his weight, down to the ground he fell, where bones and flesh lie pashed together in a pool of blood.
Alas for woe! But this is just heaven's doom on those that live by blood. In blood they die. Make an example of it, honest friends. Do well, take pains, beware of cruelty. Come, madam, come, to Windsor let us go, and there to Bruce's grief add greater woe.
And they exit. Fascinating death there for Brand. The attempting to hang himself, but sadly that doesn't work, and he ends up just smashing his brains out on the ground. Weird, really weird detail of that suicide. Yeah. So Matilda's dead. Briony.
I also think it's really weird that he's decided to kill himself when he's finally grown this conscience, but after everything that Matilda said to him, he's grown this conscience and is worried that he's going to go to hell for everything he's done. So he assures that by hanging himself.
Gives in to one hope. And his sudden conscience comes out of nowhere, really. I mean, it's she says he's a good friend, and then he stands staring and quaking. It's all in the imagery. It's all in what the actor is physically doing. It's not. There's nothing. It all happens instantaneously. Francis.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit confusing that there wasn't a stage direction that Matilda actually drank from the cup, because I was thinking, has she drunk the poison or has she not? Or is it a question of the Queen and Oxford coming in at the last minute and distracting her or something? But then it became clear that, as she talked about her fading vision, that she had actually drunk the poison.
Yeah, there's several points where it could be. I mean, obviously it's set up by drinking a full carouse, but it could sort of happen any time in the next 4 lines or so before Farewell, Good Fellow. I don't think there's an exact moment there. I think you could play around with that. Alan, then Rachael.
Yeah, I mean, there's an echo of the death of Robin himself in Act 1 for those who can remember that far back.
It's a different world.
That he drinks the poison and then has time for a Wagnerian opera of a death piece.
Well, to be fair, Matilda is quite brief here. She gets a decent speech, but actually she doesn't do 4 or 5. She doesn't say that many farewells either. Actually, it's commendable on that level. Valentina, you wanted more, I can tell. Not enough death speech. No, you were quite content with the amount of death speech. Was it too much? How long is a good death speech, Valentina?
Oh, more than anything. I mean, yes, she is this ideal of charity and whatever. I mean, but I was by the end, I was like, but this is a bit much. I think you've forgiven everybody that you can forgive. That's it.
And it's all this stuff about dying a spotless maiden. I was going, weren't you married? Did I get that wrong?
You did, yes.
Wasn't she married to Robin?
She wasn't, no, because Robin had taken a self-denying ordinance that he wasn't going to marry until he was restored to his lands, which didn't happen.
Well, it did at the end of the last play. Because Richard came back and everything was fine. Anyway, it's just one of those elements. Of just anyway, I'll go to Rachael, then Briony, and then Sarah.
No, her death, when she brought up Robin again here, I feel like her death is semi more private than his was, even though it was a murder, because everybody was there before, all their friends. And I wonder, because the end of the other play said that, come back tomorrow if you want to see the rest of the story. And if they really did have the other play the day before and then you had this play the day after, I feel like you would really be feeling just like Matilda, like the absence of Robin Hood the character, because there is something that's like a superhero about him and his fantasy band of outlaws who, they kind of, I don't know, is it that idea of chivalry or romance or something that represents these higher ideals that would protect people from, this play that I don't know if it's realistic, but the things that can really happen to you in the real world and that were dangerous to people, this corruption and, all the rest of it.
I like that. Briony.
Just the layout of this, the end of that scene there, for me, I kind of understood why Bran had the change of heart, because if he's killed all these people and they have all gone out, begging him not to or whatever, and then he's finally killed somebody and she's just taken it and said, okay, thank you, I forgive you, it's all right. But she's not dead, because then she has another paragraph a bit later on after he's had his change of heart, so that kind of ruined that a bit for me.
Sarah.
Just on the thing about whether she's married or not, I think that's why it's such a big deal that it's Richard, King Richard, at the beginning of the play when Robin dies, and he says, I've just checked it, and he says, beauteous and chaste Matilda, all those lands fallen by thy folly to the prior's hands, and by his fault now forfeited to me, Earl Huntington, she shall thy countess be, and thy white yeoman. That's a massive deal because they're not married. So the fact that she's made Countess of Huntington, even though they weren't married, is Richard bestowing this huge boon on both dying Robin and on Marion for their kind of virtue and general just.
So there's effectively
fabulousness.
no time break between the end of the previous play and this one. Is that Richard's returns? They all go off hunting, and then Robin is killed before they can actually, on his return, get married.
Yeah.
And so it's effectively, it's almost he dies on their almost on their wedding night. It's that close.
Yeah.
So, which works. Just it's not. It wasn't very apparent to me anyway. I just I wasn't paying attention. Anyway, we do need to go forward, so hold on to any thoughts you've had. We've got one more scene to go. It's reasonably long, but I don't know if we'll stop and start during it. We'll probably just let it run on and see how it goes. So Act 5, Scene 2, enter Bruce. Remember Bruce? Upon the walls.
Will not my bitter bannings and sad plaints, my just and execrable excrations, my tears, my prayers, my pity-moving moans, prevail, thou glorious bright lamp of the day, to cause thee keep an orbit for their souls, and dwell 1 month with the Antipodes. Bright sun, retire, gild not this vault of death with thy illustrate rays. Retire, retire, and yield, black night, thy empery a little while, till as my tears be spent, my blood be likewise shed in raining drops, by the tempestuous rage of tyrant John. Learn of thy love, the morning. She hath wept shower upon shower of silver dewy tears. High trees, low plants, and pretty little flowers witnessed her woe. On them her grief appears, and as she drips on them, they do not let, by drop and drop, their mother earth to wet. See these hard stones, how fast small rivulets issue from them, though they seem issueless, and wet-eyed woe on everything is viewed, save in thy face that smilest at my distress. Oh, do not drink these tears thus greedily, yet let the morning's mourning garment dwell upon the sad earth. Wilt thou not, thou churl? Then surf it with thy exhalations speedily, for all earth's venomous infecting worms have belched their several poisons on the fields, mixing their simples in thy compound draught. Well, Phoebus, well, drink on, I say, drink on, but when thou dost ungorge thee, grant me this, thou pour thy poisons on the head of John.
And there is the beating of a drum. Enter Chester, Mowbray, soldiers at one door, Leicester, Richmond at another. There are soldiers.
How now, my lords? Were ye last night so pleased with the beholding of that property which John and other murderers have wrought upon my starved mother and her son, that you are come again? Shall I again set open shop, show my dead ware, dear bought of a relentless merchant that doth trade on the Red Sea, swollen mighty with the blood of noble, virtuous, harmless innocents, whose coal-black vessel is of ebony, their shrouds and tackle, wrought and woven by wrong, stretched with no other gale of wind but grief, whose sighs with full blasts beateth on her shrouds. The master murder is, the pilot shame, the mariner's rape, theft and perjury, the burden, tyrannous oppression, which hourly he in England doth unlade. Say, shall I open shop and show my wares?
No, good Lord Bruce. We have enough of that.
Drum, enter the King Hubert's soldiers.
To Windsor welcome, Hubert. Soft. Methinks Bruce and our lords are at a parley now.
Chester and Mowbray, you are John's sworn friends. Will you see more? Speak, answer me, my lords. I am no niggard, and you shall have your fill.
We have too much and surfeit with the woe.
Are you all full? There comes a ravening kite that both at quick, at dead, at all will smite. he must, I, and by a lady may, command me to give over holiday, and set wide open what you would not see.
Why stand ye, lords, and see this traitor perched upon our castle's battlements so proud? Come down, young Bruce, set ope the castle gates. Unto thy sovereign let thy knee be bowed, and mercy shall be given to thee and thine.
Oh, miserable thing! Comes mercy from the mouth of John our king? Why then, belike, hell will be pitiful. I will not ope the gates, the gate I will, the gate where thy shame and my sorrow sits. See my dead mother and her famished son.
And opens a casement, showing like the most terrifying shop window ever, showing the dead bodies within.
Open thy tyrant's eyes, for to the world I will lay open thy fell cruelties.
We heard, indeed, thy mother and her son in prison died by wilful famishment.
Sin doubled upon sin. Slanderest thou the dead? Unwilling willingness it shall appear. By then I have produced, as I will do, the just presumptions gainst your unjust act.
Assail the castle, lords, alarum, drums, and drown this screech owl's cries with your deep sounds.
Tell thee, drummer, if thy drum thou smite, by heaven, I'll send thy soul to hell's dark night. Hence with thy drum. God's passion, get thee hence. Begone, I say. Move not my patience.
And exit the drum.
Are you advised, Leicester? What you do?
I am advised. For, my sovereign, no, there's not a lord here will lift up his arm against the person of yon noble youth, till you have heard the circumstantial truth by good presumption touching this foul deed. Therefore, go on, young Bruce, proceed. Refill the allegation that puts in this doubt whether thy mother, through her wilfulness, famished herself and her sweet son, or no.
Unlikely supposition. Nature first denies that any mother when her youngling cries, if she have means, is so unnatural to let it faint and starve. But we will prove she had no means, except this moanful mean, this torture of herself. Come forth, Sir William Blunt, whom slander says I slew. Come, tell the king and lords what you know true.
And enter Sir William Blunt.
Thou hast betrayed our castle.
No, God can tell. It was surprised by politic report and affirmation that your grace was slain.
Go on, Sir William Blunt. Pass briefly to the lady's famishment.
And some 10 days since, there came one Brand, bringing a signet from my lord the king, and this commission signed with his hand.
The lords look and read the thing.
Commanding me, as the contents express, that I should presently deliver up the Lady Bruce and her young son to him.
What time of day was this?
It was, Lord Mowbray, somewhat past 11, when we were even then sitting down to dine.
But did ye dine?
The lady and her son did not. Brand would not stay.
No, Leicester, no, for here is no such sign of any meat's digestion.
But by the way, tell us, I pray you, Blunt, while she remained with you, was she distraught with grief or any other passions violent?
She now and then would weep, and often pray for reconcilement twixt the king and lords.
How to her son did she affected stand?
Affection could not any more affect, nor might a mother show more mother's love.
How to my lord the king?
Oh, my Lord God, I never knew a subject love king more. She never would blend telling how his grace saved her son from soldiers and from fire, how fair he spake, gave her son to keep, and then, poor lady, she would kiss her boy and pray the king so heartily, earnestly, that in pure zeal she wept most bitterly.
I weep for her, and do by heaven protest I honoured Bruce's wife, howe'er that slave rudely affected what I rashly willed. Yet when he came again, and I bethought what bitter penance I had put them to, for my conceived displeasure against old Bruce, I bade the villain post and bear them meat, which he excused, protesting pity moved him to leave wine, bread, and other powdered meat, more than they twain could in a fortnight eat.
Indeed, this I can witness with the king, which argues in that point his innocence. Brand did bear in a month's provisions, but locked it like a villain far from them, and locked them in a place where no man's ear might hear their lamentable woeful moans. For all the issue that both of vent and light came from a louver at the tower's top. Till now, Lord Bruce made open this wide gap.
Had I not reason, think you, to make wide the window that should let so much woe forth? Where sits my mother, martyred by herself, hoping to save her child from martyrdom? Where stands my brother, martyred by himself, because he would not taste his mother's blood? For thus I gather this, my mother's teeth and chin are bloody with the savage cookery, which her soft heart, through pity of her son, respectless made her practice on herself. And her right hand, with offering it the child, is with her own pure blood stained and defiled. My little brother's lips and chin alone are tainted with the blood, but his even teeth, like orient pearl or snow white ivory, have not one touch of blood, one little spot, which is an argument the boy would not once stir his lips to taste that bloody food our cruel gentle mother ministered. But as it seemed, for see, his pretty palm is bloody too, he cast it on the ground, for on this side the blessed relics lie, by famine's rage divided from this shrine. Sad, woeful mother in Jerusalem, who, when thy son and thou didst faint for food, buried his sweet flesh in thy hungry womb. How merciless wert thou if we compare thy fact and this? For my poor lady mother did kill herself to save my dying brother, and thou, ungentle son of Miriam, why didst thou beg life when thy mother lacked? My little brother George did nobly act a more courageous part. He would not eat nor beg to live. It seemed he did not cry. Few tears stand on his cheeks, smooth is each eye. But when he saw my mother bent to die, he died with her. Oh, childish valiancy.
Good Bruce, have done. My heart cannot contain the grief it holds. My eyes must shower down rain.
Which showers are even as good as rain in harvest, or a swelling flood when neighbouring meadows lack the mower's scythe.
And a march for burial with drum and fife. Enter Oxford, Matilda born with nuns, one carrying a white pendant, these words written in gold, Amoris castitatis et honoris onus. The Queen following the bier, carrying a garland of flowers, set in the midst of the stage.
List, Leicester, hearest thou not the mournful march?
Yes, Richmond, and it seemeth old De Vere.
Lords, by your leave, is not our sovereign here?
Yes, good old Aubrey.
Ah, my gracious lord, that you so much your high estate should neglect. Ah, God in heaven, forgive this bloody deed. Young Bruce, I weep. Thy mother and thy brothers wrong, yet to afflict thee more grief I bring.
Oh, honourable Aubrey de Vere, let sorrow in a sable suit appear. Do not misshape her garment like delight. If it be grief, why clothest thou her in white?
I cannot tell thee yet, I must sit down. Attend, young Bruce, and listen to the Queen. She'll not be tongue-tied, we shall have a stir, anon, I fear, would make a man half sick.
Are you here, lecher? O intemperate king, wilt thou not see me? Come, show your face, your grace's graceless, king's unkingly face. What, mute, hands folded, eyes fixed on the earth, whose turn is next now to be murdered. The famished Bruces are on yonder side, on this another I will name anon, one whose head this garland I do bear, and this fair milk-white spotless pendant too. Look up, King John. See, yonder sits thy shame, yonder it lies. What must I tell thee her name? It is Matilda, poisoned by thee.
Matilda? Oh, that foul, swift-footed slave that kills, ere one have time to bid him save. Fair, gentle girl, ungently made away.
My banished uncle's daughter, art thou there? Then I defy all hope and swear.
Stay, Bruce, and listen well what oath to swear. Louis the Dauphin, pitting our estate, is by the Christian king his father sent with aid to help us, and is landed too. Lords that will fly the den of cruelty and fight to free yourselves from tyranny, Bruce, keep that castle to the only use of our elected king, Louis of France.
God's passion do not so, King John is here. Lords, whisper not with Leicester. Leicester, fie. Stir not again, regardless mutiny. Speak to them, Hugh. I know thou lovest the king. Madame, go to them. Nay, do. For God's sake, do. Down with your stomach, for if he go down, you must down too, and be no longer queen. Advise you, go, entreat them speedily. My sovereign, wherefore sit you sighing there? The lords are all about to follow Louis. Up and entreat them, else they will away.
Good Oxford, let them go. Why should they stay?
What, are ye desperate? That must not be. Hear me, my lords.
All stand in council.
This pendant let them see. Amoris castitatis et honoris honors. She was indeed of love the honour once, when she was loved of virtuous Huntington, of chastity the honour all her life. To impure thought she never could be won, and she of honour was the honour too. By birth and life she honour honoured. Bring in 2 tapers, lighted. Quick! Dispatch.
Remember, Bruce, thy charge. Come, lords, away.
And all, except for Oxford and Hubert, say,
Away, we will away.
Away.
and bring in 2 white tapers.
Hark, Leicester, but one word, a little stay. Help me, good Hubert. Help me, gentle queen.
And again they confer.
How dim these tapers burn. They give no light. Here were 2 beauteous lamps that could have taught the sun to shine by day, the moon by night. They are dim, too clean extinguished. Away with these, if these fair lights be dead.
And I say, hark, Bruce, unto our talk. Think you it is for love of England Louis comes? Nay, France is not so kind, I would it were. Advise yourselves. Hark, dost thou hear me, Bruce?
Oxford, I do.
Can noble English hearts bear the French yoke? No, Leicester, Richmond, think on Louis' sire, that left you and your king in Palestine.
And think beside, you know not Louis's nature, who may be as bad as John, or rather worse than he.
Look, my lords, upon his silent woe. His soul is at the door of death, I know. See how he seeks to suck, if he could draw, poison from dead Matilda's ashy lips. I will be sworn his very heartstring nips. Vengeance on that slave, that cursed brand. I'll kill him, if I live, with this right hand.
Thou canst not, Hubert, he hath killed himself. But to our matter, Leicester, pray thee speak. Young Bruce, for God's sake, let us know thy mind.
I would be loath to be a stranger's slave. For England's love, I would no French king have.
Well, Oxford, if I be deceived in John again, 'tis long of you, Lord Hubert, and the Queen. Yield up the castle, Bruce. We'll once more try King John's proceedings. Oxford, tell him so.
Oxford goes to the king, does his duty, and talks with him.
I will come down, but first, farewell, dear mother. Farewell, poor little George, my pretty brother. Now will I shut my shambles in again. Farewell, farewell. In everlasting bliss your sweet souls dwell.
But you must mend if in faith you must.
My lord, once more your subjects do submit, beseeching you to think how things have passed, and let some comfort shine on us, your friends, through the bright splendour of your virtuous life.
I thank you all. And Leicester, I protest, I will be better than I yet have been.
Of Windsor Castle, here the keys I yield.
Thanks, Bruce. Forgive me, and I pray thee, see thy mother and thy brother buried.
Bruce offers to kiss Matilda.
In Windsor Castle Church. Do kiss her cheek. Weep thou on that, on this side I will weep.
Chaste virgin, thus I crown thee with these flowers.
Let us go on to Dunmow with this maid. Among the hallowed nuns let her be laid. Unto her tomb a monthly pilgrimage doth King John vow, in penance for this wrong. Go forward, maids, on with Matilda's hearse, and on her tomb see you engrave this verse. Within this marble monument doth lie Matilda, martyred for her chastity.
And exit, leaving the epilogue.
Thus is Matilda's story shown in act, and rough hewn out by an uncunning hand, being of the most material points compact, that with the certain estate of truth doth stand.
Well, so many things to discuss here. The shop front, that image we had set earlier, and when he said set open shop, show my dead ware, I was going, oh, they're not going to. They're not going. Oh, yes, they are. They're going to pull it back, and we're going to see the corpses. Bruce's speech at the beginning, I mean, there's some wonderful stuff in there. That's such a good speech. I mean, it's a good one to put in your back pocket, people. That's a really good audition speech. Really like that one. Briony.
Yeah, thank you, because that was just amazing to read, and because it's you can feel it, and you know it's all so ghastly, but yeah, it was brilliant. But I was really disappointed with him at the end.
Yeah.
Like I hate this man so much, but oh well, he's not French though, so we'll stick with him.
Yes, there is a bit of what do people who murder my family, the French. Yeah. I mean, there's so much more to say, but Sarah.
Yeah, I also did love that line of the Queen's. It made me really laugh when she was like, yeah, but we don't know what Louis like. He might be worse than John. That is such a great reason for leaving a despot in charge of a country.
Yeah, like worse than John.
Yeah, exactly. But I found that speech of Bruce's was amazing, and I found that scene really very disturbing. Again, I found this quite disturbing because it was the way he was having to prove that his mother and brother had been murdered in this really awful way, and the bodies are there, and yet they're still like concocting this fiction whereby, oh well, maybe she starved herself to death, and did they actually eat anything, and maybe she was actually, or maybe it was all her fault, and the bodies are there, and it, really compelling theatre, but so disturbing, and does have real resonance, I think, for a contemporary audience.
What's interesting, I think, is genre. I mean, we've gone from a history play, and we're suddenly in a tragedy. We're in one of those bloody tragedies at the end where the bodies are piled high, and then it goes into this courtroom drama. I mean, they're laying the case, they're going through the evidence, and then we get the sort of final speech for the prosecution from Bruce. But you've got Blunt, who's there as the witness. You've got them talking, as you were saying, about the state of the corpses. And look here, and so you've got the expert testimony. And so it's like one of the earliest courtroom dramas suddenly leaps out at us. And then we're back to tragedy. Almost. It's trying to spin us like it's the king's tragedy, and the king then starts making out with the corpse in this weird way. Or that's where it seems to read that way, that he's trying to suck the poison from her lips, and they're going, that's not an image I want here. That's just really messed up. And then it's like the history play, late onset history play comes running in. The French are here. Oh, right, hang on, we have to get back to where history left us. It's doing so many different things, one after another. It's fascinating. So many hands. I'll go to Alan, then Francis, then Rachael.
I'm just wondering, is it Munday or is it Chettle, who we've encountered before, who seem to have somewhat of a taste for somewhat over the top grotesquerie in presentation? I have a feeling we've encountered one of them before doing that sort of thing.
I don't know that we have in Munday. I mean, it's an interesting question, and it's not really our job to decide which author wrote which bits. Generally speaking, it seems to be more Munday. The opening of the play is left over from whatever Munday wrote from the earlier text, and then it gets revised by Chettle. But it doesn't really matter. We haven't really encountered any Chettle at all, though it may indeed fit more his oeuvre when we come to reading some of his works coming up. So yeah, it's certainly familiar, but it may be familiar from other people's works rather than just. Well, that's why I was talking about genre in that sense of it's doing the kind of job that we're starting to see in plays of this really excessive, visualized grief, murder body stuff. Francis, then Lynn.
Yeah, like you, I was quite struck by that imagery of King John trying to suck the poison from Matilda's lips. I was kind of wondering, how as an actor one could sort of do that and make it sort of seem believable. I think I'd play it as if I was trying to give her mouth-to-mouth resuscitation or something, my desperation. But I liked the whole bit after that of just King John as this broken man. And I do kind of wonder what kind of king he would have made after this experience.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. The problem with that, the way the king functions after he finds out Matilda is dead, is of course it's trying to make him into a sort of tragic. Feel sorry for John. No, we're not going to. We shouldn't feel sorry for John. It's absolutely no right to play this kind of emotional blackmail on us. Lynn.
What was really interesting to me today was the ways in which a big chunk of this play prefigured later Jacobean tragedy. That the head of state is a lustful dog that comes up in White Devil and Women Beware Women and the Maid's tragedy and the Revenger's tragedy. So that's like a trope, and I didn't really realize that it showed up this early. So that was really informative for me. And then there's some more very sort of more local things, like the viewing of the bodies really put me in mind of that moment from the Duchess of Malfi where she's shown what appears to be the bodies of her husband and children, although that's in that play they're wax replicas. They're just showing her those to torture her. But still, that viewing the bodies thing was very reminiscent of that moment in Duchess. And then the kissing the corpse. There's a thing in Revenger's tragedy where they trick the Duke into kissing a poisoned skull, and then he dies of so it's like those things were already current, or they were stolen directly by Middleton and others later on. And then this play careens back into history where we're going to try to redeem John rather than he gets killed the way the head of state typically does in a Jacobean text. So that conversation between those later texts and this text just really fascinated me. Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And in absolute terms, we're only 4 years away from the Jacobean, as it were. It's not actually that far in the future, but those plays are a little bit further on from there. You get the impression that maybe Webster and Middleton are sitting there going, "Yeah, I wasn't that keen on the whole Robin Hood bit, but this is what I want to make theatre about. This is the kind of stuff I want to do." Briony.
But she dies a virgin, and everybody makes friends, so that's a happy ending, right?
Yeah, and everyone's united because they get to fight the French, which ultimately is a win-win situation for everyone. They could have killed John. There's no reason, actually, that you couldn't segue this into his own poisoning. Because, actually, that would make it even more like a Jacobean tragedy, because then he would, it would be part of the grand guignol of everyone poisoning each other, and it would fit perfectly well, actually, with that. I mean, you'd have to sort of ignore huge chunks of history, but you could sort of just about make it work. So it's still an interesting choice that you have this broken man, and everybody sort of rallies behind defeating this outside enemy. Rachael, then Eric.
No, I was gonna say, with Lady Bruce in this, we get that imagery that they like of the pelican, pulling herself apart for the child. I feel like that in this court is what seals the evidence that they did not feed her, is that she was pulling herself apart for the kid, which is all of this is so gruesome. Even that kiss at the end, it's even more than like in Solomon and Perseda, where he kisses her at the end, where he's even transgressing death. Like, he crosses all these lines in this play. He doesn't respect the woman. I mean, he doesn't respect the man that she's going to be married to. He doesn't respect, her being a nun means she's not going to have anybody. He doesn't respect any of these nobles, and he doesn't even respect how unnatural it is to like make out with a corpse. It's just so over the top.
Especially because how Hugh, because we know Hugh is a sort of apologist for King John. So if he's actually literally making out with the corpse in the most disgusting way, and Hubert is trying to rewrite history as it's happening, going, "Look, he is trying to suck her soul." There's something potentially really disturbingly darkly comic about that. Because as Francis was saying, how do you do that and make it work? And I'm just thinking, maybe, no, the King's just lost it totally. And he's turned that. And Rachael just bringing up there the whole thing about, that she was trying to feed the child with her own blood. And that's just a horrific image. Eric, then Briony.
The whole sucking blood poison thing from her lips and so on. I keep picturing that as sort of in a very different way, as a sort of like when someone gets bitten by a snake, you're expected to suck the poison out of the wound, kind of thing. That's kind of what I pictured, but I don't know if that quite works. Also, I was thinking that you could perform this alongside the Troublesome Rain. You could just because there's points where they actually overlap, and then there's points where they diverge. And then maybe you could even have the two Johns looking at each other by the end.
Well, I mean, there is something really interesting about what we could do with there is so much King John material. The John Bale King John, which is doing very different work than this, is also really weird and transgressive in certain ways, as is elements of Troublesome Rain. So, other Johns are also available. There's so many Johns. So, there might be something that could be done there. That would be really interesting. We're not going to go round the room in a formal way for final thoughts, by the way. So if you do have final things, I may jump at you. Otherwise, things. Briony, then Sarah.
I just remembered back to the bit with the mother and the Bruce family tragedy. There's a part of me that it's not good, but I'm kind of equating it to almost like when you look after somebody's pet and you forget to feed it. But this whole idea, when they're talking about it and they're arguing and the autopsy court proceedings kind of feeling bit, where he says about, well, he brought a month's worth of food, but he locked it in another room. That's really messed up as well.
Mm. Yeah, and considering how messed up Blunt was generally, not Blunt, Brand. There's too many B's in this play. Blunt's the witness. Sorry, a very blunt witness. Sarah, then Alan.
Yes, I have 3 final thoughts, and I have to remember what they all are. The first one is just in relation to doing this alongside the troublesome rain. I mean, John is a very different person in that play. And it just kind of suddenly struck me as you and Eric were talking that you could almost have like a sliding doors type performance where it's like, parallel universe, John. Here is one John and here is another. His life could have gone in either direction, but he still ends up dead. But I mean, he doesn't in this one. So that would be quite a good way of doing it. The other 2 things I wanted to say was, well, firstly, I really feel like there was a part 3 coming because well, at the end of the first play, we knew there was a second part coming. Here, it's all like, oh yeah, that's the end of that. But it's like, what? Leicester is okay. He's not going to lead a rebellion because there's a Frenchman involved. But actually, you just know he's coming back, and he wants John. And then there is actually all this reason to have another third part because you've got the death of John still to come. It doesn't happen, so it's like, well, where's? I mean, I assume there is no third part. Is there a third part?
There isn't a third part, or at least not that we're aware of.
There should be a third part.
Yeah, because it can open with fighting off the French, all that stuff, and then lead, which in a sense, is where we are with elements of Troublesome Reign. So we could construct one.
We could, but he's a very different John. So it's like, I don't know. But the final thing I wanted to say was just to take a moment and go back to the beginning of this play. Where we've got Friar Tuck coming in, like, what foul absurdity, folly and foolery had like to follow me. I and my mates like addle pates, invited great states to see our last player hunting the hay with hoe that way. I mean, talk about genre bending. It's not just history and tragedy. It's like this play starts off as this kind of light-hearted romp. And because it's taken us 3 days to do it, it's like, that seems like such a long way away. But like, my goodness, talk about the genre bending, because this takes the audience just through it all.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster. It really is. And we were talking the other day. That first part doesn't feel very connected. But in a way, it's that disconnection. I said last session. I said before we came on. It's like Into the Woods. It's like we have this pastoral idyll, and everybody's foldery roll and la di da, and then reality steps in, or something else just crashes into the play, and it all goes wrong. And it's like this fantasy is broken, and Matilda was a real person, and her fantasy world has collapsed around her, and she's just left in this world of utter horror. Alan, I think, and then I think Valentina.
My thought is that actually the first 2.5 scenes of this would actually work better as a final act to what we did as Robin Hood Part 1. In other words, taking it up to the death of Robin Hood, you could then do effectively the point at which Tuck is told, oh no, we can't afford to send the audience home at this stage because they'll all want refunds. The 3 dumb shows, and then run that through for the rest of this play. So you bill the first one as being the downfall and death of Robin Hood, this one as the death of Matilda.
Yeah, I yesterday I'd agreed with you, but now weirdly I'm actually going that the 2 plays kind of, you do them back to back, but there is a sort of twisted logic. It's and you can't disguise the fact that it's untidy, but someone has sculpted it to do this, and I wonder if actually this half, the Matilda half, functions without the Robin Hood, without the memory of Robin Hood, the memory of water. I wonder. It's something that I think it'd be really interesting to try different versions of this, and play around, almost third look territory where we say, okay, let's run this like this and run, because I don't know if I want to have a story, a single session where we get to the death of Robin Hood. I think that's not the way to end that narrative, actually, because it would be a real downer to end the play on. Valentina.
Yeah, coming back later on this is always a bit like eye-opening. But this is actually a play I've encountered before, so I remember how shocking the ending was when I got to watch the first part, and then like, but what I want to say is that you probably said it before, I don't know, but I mean, King John in this play is a great part. There's so much you can do with it. And I don't know if, like, obviously the image at the ending is disturbing, but like, I don't know if how much of the breakage of himself is actually genuine, and that is going to be the person who is going to play it. Decision on how much of it is like what is going on there. But yeah, that was about it.
We are running out of time, so Eric, then Rachael.
I was going to say, you could kind of see this as a sort of apocalypse film, where like you've got the really happy bits like within a sort of, I don't know, like, I don't know, bunker or whatever, and then after people start dying, you've got, I don't know, whatever disease creeps in, whatever you want. I don't know. Obviously, people kill each other, start cannibalizing each other. Then things start to go very, very wrong.
There is a quality. We were talking about dancing from genre to genre. We've got this horror moment. We've got this tragedy moment. We've got so many moments that are doing different things. I mean, it's so invigorating, I have to say. I'm actually weirdly invigorated by the lack of cohesion that's going on here. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that will pay out to an audience as something that works, but yeah, Rachael.
No, I was gonna say, like, I definitely would love to come back to this for a second look or a workshop. And I think you could do either of the plays like by themselves, or you could do one of those things like they do with Harry Potter and the Something Child, or like Angels in America, where it's like a two-dayer.
Oh, absolutely.
And I was,
it's easier, and it's a great marketing package as well. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that as everybody was talking about this kiss again, I was thinking, because he's trying to suck out the poison, the dialogue, they're talking about Brand killing himself in the same moment. And it could be ambiguous whether John has sucked out actual poison and gone and tried to kill himself with like a poison kiss thing. And whether or not he succeeds to do it could be ambiguous.
Sadly, we have run out of time. I like the idea that rather than leaping to a second look, that maybe we just workshop sections, because actually this is very workshoppable in units. The Robin Hood death sequence, the whole nun sequence. There's so much here that actually we could just take apart unit by unit before we return to deciding how we would construct what we run. Otherwise, all that remains is to thank all these wonderful readers for surviving the death of Robert, Earl of Huntington. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye.